Hi, my name is Rob Shepard, pastor of East Sherman Baptist Church, and I want to thank you for connecting with us through our website today. I pray that this message is an encouragement to you, and I invite you to experience worship with us live every Sunday morning at 10:15. East Sherman is a church devoted to knowing Jesus, growing in Jesus, and showing Jesus to others. May the Lord richly bless you as you listen to the preaching of His Word.
Turn with me to the book of Ruth this morning, the book of Ruth. I'm going to be talking about what it means to be a spiritual mother this morning. Now, there's something special about being a spiritual mother this morning. It's critical to be a spiritual mother to your own children. Let there be no doubt about that. However, perhaps you have never had children of your own, or maybe your children have gone on to be with the Lord. You know you still have a huge role to play in the lives of those who are younger than you. You see, this morning, as we read through Ruth, it's important to realize Naomi was not Ruth's birth mother, but she was her spiritual mother. The bond between the two was no doubt something special to behold. So this morning, what does it mean to be a spiritual mother? You may be asking that. Some of you men may be asking that this morning. How can I be a spiritual mother? Well, I'm sorry. You can't. I'm not preaching to you this morning. I'm preaching to moms. I'm just kidding. I think all of us can learn something from this book of Ruth this morning. Now, before I jump in to the message this morning, I'm going to brag on my own mom. I didn't know she was going to be here this morning. She's got this look of stark terror in her face. But I can remember from elementary school all the way through high school, there were times when my sister and I would get in trouble. I know it's hard to believe, but we would get in trouble, and occasionally we would get sent to the principal's office. And whenever that happened, we'd call our mom, or the principal or his secretary would call my mom. And within 10 or 15 minutes, didn't matter what kind of time of day, didn't matter what she was doing, didn't matter what she was involved in, she was there. And the principal, especially at Timberlake, hated making that phone call to my mom. Because he knew once he did, it was like unleashing the Kraken. She was there. She would be there, sitting in the office, waiting to hear what her children had done. And she was fair. If we were in the wrong, man, we got it. We got it from her, then we got it from Dad, then we got it from both of them, then we were grounded. I mean, it just worked that way. But if we needed an advocate, if we needed a cheerleader, if we needed someone to stand up for us and plead our cause, man, she was there. She was a pit bull, and she wouldn't let go. I remember one of the teachers there at Timberlake, Mrs. Wooldridge. None of you know her, so although she may be watching this online, I'm mentioning it. She couldn't stand seeing my mom coming because she would always send my sister to the office. It didn't matter. Jamie, whatever she did, it was wrong. And boom, Jamie Shepard, go to the office. And there were some times when Mrs. Wooldridge would go to the office with Jamie and sit there and meet with the principal. And as I mentioned earlier, they'd call Mom and she'd be there. There were times when Jamie, I don't know if Mom did, but Jamie would make Miss Wooldridge cry. It was one of those situations. Mom was always there for us. She was always supportive of us. If we needed correcting, she would correct us. But she was a fantastic mom, still is a fantastic mom, and is our biggest cheerleader. So thank you for that, Mom. Now, that was for free. Turn with me to Ruth chapter 1, starting in verse number 15. Ruth chapter 1, 15 through 18. What does it mean to be a spiritual mother this morning? Start reading with me in verse number 15. Then she said, "Behold, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Do not urge me to leave you or turn back from following you. For where you go, I will go. And where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and then there I will be buried. Thus may the Lord more due to me, and worse, if anything but death parts you and me." When she saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more to her. So let's set the stage here regarding a spiritual mother. What has Naomi experienced? Naomi was in a foreign land. Naomi was married with 2 sons. Naomi witnessed her husband pass. Her husband dies. 10 years later, her 2 sons are married to foreigners, by the way, and they pass. Naomi is left with her 2 daughter-in-laws. And she decides to go back home. And at this point, she is pleading with her daughters-in-law. "Look, don't come with me. You don't owe me anything. You don't have to take care of me. I'm going to go. You guys go your separate ways. You're still young. You need to find husbands. You need to find a new life. You need a fresh beginning. Don't let me hold you back. You go." And both of them initially say, "We're not going anywhere without you. We will follow you. We want to go with you." Eventually, she convinces one daughter-in-law to go her way. But Ruth refuses. In verse number 14, the Word of God says, Ruth clung to her. Ruth would not let her go. The first thing that I notice about being a spiritual mother is this. A spiritual mother is willing to sacrifice. A spiritual mother is willing to sacrifice. Verse number 8 of chapter 1. "And Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, 'Go, return, each of you to her mother's house. May the Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with me, with the dead and with me. May the Lord grant that you may find rest, each in the house of her husband.' Then she kissed them, and they lifted up their voices and wept. And they said to her, 'No, but we will surely return with you to your people.' But Naomi said, 'Return, my daughters. Why should you go with me? Have I yet sons in my womb that they may be your husbands? Return, my daughters. Go, for I am too old to have a husband. If I said I have hope, if I should even have a husband tonight and also bear sons, would you therefore wait until they were grown? Would you therefore refrain from marrying? No, my daughters, for it is harder for me than for you. For the hand of the Lord has gone forth against me.' Having lost her husband and her 2 sons, Naomi was willing to let go of the last vestige of the family she loved so dearly. And why was she willing to do that? Because she wanted her 2 daughters-in-law to rebuild. The future in her mind was not with her. She was willing to exchange her needs for the needs of her children. Her comfort and security for those she loved. She was willing to see beyond selfish desires to the best interest of her daughters-in-law. Think about it for a moment. She was willing to let them go. This morning, in order to be a spiritual mother, it's important to sacrifice. Sacrifice for the benefit of your children. Sacrifice for the benefit of your spiritual children, if you will. Allow them to see that you are willing to cling to God at all costs, and you are willing to let go of the comforts of this world. And sometimes that comfort may be the security blanket of having your children close. Are you willing to sacrifice this morning? A spiritual mother is willing to sacrifice. And then secondly, a spiritual mother is one who is worthy of being followed. One who is worthy of being followed. And that's where we pick up in verse number 14. I want to read this to you again because this is really the crux of the entire book of Ruth in my mind. And they lifted up their voices and wept again. And Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her. Then she said, "Behold, your sister-in-law has gone back to her people and her gods. Return after your sister-in-law." But Ruth said, "Do not urge me to leave you or turn back from following you. For where you go, I will go, and where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. Thus may the Lord do to me, and worse, if anything but death parts you and me." When she saw that she was determined to go with her, she said no more to her. Naomi was a mother worthy of being followed. This morning, can that be said of you as a mother, as a spiritual mother? Are you worthy of being followed? Naomi was a woman of character. And how do we define character? What you do when nobody else is looking. Ruth saw Naomi at her lowest, saw Naomi at her best, saw Naomi at her happiest, saw Naomi grieve the loss of her husband and her 2 sons, saw Naomi lose everything, saw Naomi contemplate, do I go home? Do I go back to where I started from, or do I just stay here? And through it all, Ruth and Orpah, for that matter, both saw a woman of character, saw a woman of faith, saw a woman who not only preached values, but lived values. Now I'm going to tell you, as you read through this book, does that mean Naomi was perfect? No, she wasn't. You get a little farther in, and she felt as if God had forsaken her. She was despondent. She was discouraged. Who knows? She may have been battling some depression. I'm sure she was. But through it all, she never cursed God. She never blamed God. She never left her faith. And for that reason, Ruth, a foreigner, a Moabite, said, "You know what? I'm going to forsake my home, my future family, my livelihood, everything I know, and I'm going to follow you. I'm going to follow you, Naomi, to a foreign land filled with people who hate me, filled with people who despise my people. And I'm going to be with you. I'm going to follow you." Are you a mother worthy of being followed? Naomi was real with Ruth. She saw everything that Naomi had experienced. When we talk about teaching our children values this morning, what does that look like? What does that mean? So often, we, fathers and mothers, forfeit that to Hollywood. And we allow our kids to receive their values and their marching orders from the Kardashians, from Chris Lee Knows Best, from all this reality TV junk that you can witness, from Miranda Sings on YouTube. Let them teach the values to our children. Let them indoctrinate our kids. And we, as parents, forsake that. We neglect that. And I'm here to tell you that is why the church, that is why America, that is why our families are in the shape that we are in, because we have forsaken teaching godly values, teaching the Word of God to our kids. And instead of the Word of God, they're getting the Word of Kardashian. That is dangerous. That is not just dangerous, that is disastrous for us. Be a mother worthy of being followed. Teach those godly values. Model those godly values. Naomi never justified or excused her own sin. So often we do. A spiritual mother is one who does not tolerate wickedness and makes wise and right choices even when it's hard and could be a disadvantage to them. Have you ever made a decision in your life? I know I have. You come to a decision, you come to a fork in the road, and like Yogi Berra said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. You come to a fork in the road, and you know what's right, you know what's just, you know what God has to say about this. Let's call that the left fork. But you also know if you make that decision, man, that could come back to haunt you on the job or in your family, or if you admit to what you did back then, man, that could embarrass you. So instead of doing the right thing, it's easier to take that right fork and say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to cover it up, or I'm going to ignore it, or I'm not going to confess it. I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm going to make the easy choice as opposed to the hard choice. You know what happens when we make choices based on what's easy for us and what allows us to get away with possible sin or disobedience? You know who's watching? Of course, the Lord is. Our children are watching. If I've learned anything over the course of the past couple years, and I guarantee you, if you ask my girls, they'll confirm this. They really don't care what I have to say. I can preach a sermon. I did it yesterday. I preached one great sermon to my daughter. Great sermon. Made some really good points. Had my PowerPoint up. No, I didn't have my PowerPoint. But I nailed it, man. Everything I said was right in line with God's Word. And the whole time she's looking at me with a blank look on her face like, yeah, I've heard this before. Let it be over, God. Just let it be over. Our kids don't really care about what we have to say. They care about what we do and what we model and what we place on exhibition for them and the words we use. Either the harsh words that we use or the words of love and life that we use. That's what they care about. They want to see, okay, is this faith the real deal for you? Because if it is, I'm going to follow you. You are worthy of being followed. If it ain't real, and okay, Dad, you get up and you preach on Sunday morning, but you live like Satan the rest of the week, and you preach one thing and you live another, why do I want that? You hypocrite. We can preach all day long to our kids. Are we worthy of being followed? What do they see when we are at home? And what Ruth saw in Naomi was a woman who was worthy of being followed. Thirdly, a spiritual mother is willing to sacrifice. A spiritual mother is one who is worthy of being followed. A spiritual mother welcomes the opportunity to mentor and minister. Look with me at chapter 2, starting in verse number 20. Chapter 2 and verse number 20. We'll read down through verse number 23. Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, may he be blessed, talking about Boaz, may he be blessed of the Lord who has not withdrawn his kindness to the living and to the dead. Again, Naomi said to her, the man is our relative. He is one of our closest relatives. Then Ruth, the Moabitess, said, furthermore, he said to me, you shall stay close to my servants until they have finished all my harvest. Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, it is good, my daughter, that you go out with his maids, so that others do not fall upon you in another field. So she stayed close by the maids of Boaz in order to glean until the end of the barley harvest and the wheat harvest, and she lived with her mother-in-law. Drop down to chapter 3, starting at verse number 1. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, my daughter, shall I not seek security for you, that it may be well with you? Now is not Boaz our kinsman, with whose maids you were? Behold, he winnows barley at the threshing floor tonight. Wash yourself, therefore, and anoint yourself, and put on your best clothes, and go down to the threshing floor. But do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. It shall be when he lies down that you shall notice the place where he lies, and you shall go and uncover his feet and lie down. Then he will tell you what you shall do. She said to her, all that you say I will do. What was Naomi doing at this point? You on a high level, on a fleshly level, you know what she was doing? I'm going to find you a husband. I'm going to make sure you're taken care of. And Boaz, relatively wealthy. He's of our line. He's of our family. It is a match made in heaven. You go and you show yourself to him. But she gave her some advice, right? Don't do it until after he works and after he eats. I love that. Wait until after dinner. Show yourself to be willing to submit to him. Show what you desire. Show what you want. And see what happens. She was mentoring Ruth. She was ministering to Ruth. She was watching out for Ruth's security. Naomi was up close and personal with Ruth. She withheld nothing from her. Taught her everything. Here, she was speaking about dating, about sex, about love, about God. She reflected the grace and the glory of God in the way in which she lived her life and modeled her faith. One of the things that, again, going back to my mom, she's never going to come back on Mother's Day. One of the things I remember her saying to me and my sister over and over and over and over and over again was something she heard from her mom. And I'll never forget, after a baseball game in high school, I had gone like 0 for 4, made a couple of errors, was just really, I had a terrible game. I got in the car, I threw my glove on the floor, and I just sat there like this, and she was driving. I don't know if she remembers this. I was just pouting about this horrible game I had had. She goes, "What are you upset about?" I said, "You were there. You saw the way I played. I stunk." Went back to looking out the window. And I made this statement, and I should never have said this. I said, I guess I just can't play anymore. I guess I'm just no good. I just can't do it anymore. You know, being the temperamental teen. She looked at me, and I'd heard it before, and I would hear it again. And she looked at me, she goes, "Rob, can't, never did nothing." It's like, oh, those words, I remember those words from my grandma, I remember from my mom. What was she doing? She was obviously trying to encourage me, but she was trying to teach me something. Hey, if you're going to sit and stew and pout about it and not do anything and not work, yeah, you're right. If you're going to tell yourself you can't, you're not going to. You're never going to accomplish anything with the mindset that I've already been defeated, I can't accomplish anything, I'm not going to get better, I'm just going to stay forever at 0-4 and making a couple errors at every game that I play. Yeah, can't, never did nothing. So long as you have that defeatist mindset, you will be defeated. So, while I pretended at that moment not to hear my mom, I didn't want to hear those words. Obviously, 20 plus years later, those words still ring in my ears. And whenever I find myself getting down or getting discouraged or thinking, okay, I can't accomplish this, that phrase reverberates in my brain pan. Can't, never did nothing. Get up and try. Get up and work. Get up and do it. Make it happen. A spiritual mother welcomes the opportunity to mentor and minister. And thank God my mom was one of those women that was willing to mentor and minister and reflect God in her life to her kids. A spiritual mother guides her children spiritually and educates her children about the realities of life and love and eternity. Spiritual mother does all of that and much, much more. Again, one of the things that still sticks with me, I was 9 or 10 years old, and I think I was 10 or 11 actually. And at that point, my family, my mom, my dad, had re-engaged in church, and we started going back to church regularly, and my sister and I hated it. Hated it. Oh, really? We would get up on Sunday mornings and try to be as quiet as we could, because cartoons were on. We'd turn on the TV at a very low volume. We'd sit there, we'd eat our cereal, and we'd watch the clock. 8:15 comes, all right. We know if they're not out of the bedroom in another 10, 15 minutes, we ain't going to church. And we We'd just be quiet. Now, 9 times out of 10, they'd come bounding out of the room. All right, let's go. Oh, man, we got to go to church. But I remember it was either Sunday night or Wednesday night. I was playing pickup baseball with my friends, and she told me before I left the house, now, we got church tonight, so make sure you're back for that. I was like, yeah, whatever. So I get down to Jeff Steffen's house, and we start playing street baseball. We used a tennis ball, I'll never forget it. And church started at 6. So I'm there playing. I don't pay attention to the time. I don't care. So right in the middle of the game, who do I see? Driving up the road. It's my mom. And at the time, she called me Bobby. Bobby, what time were you supposed to be home? In time for church, Mom. Why aren't you home? I just lost track of time. We were playing. We were up by 1. I wanted to finish the game. Get in the car. We're going to church. But Mom, I'm sweaty and I'm dirty. I don't care. I told you to be home. You didn't come home. Get in the car. We're going to church. And we went to church. She cared for us spiritually. She made sure we were engaged in church, even when we didn't want to be engaged in church. And then lastly, a spiritual mother walks with the Lord through the night, which always yields to the day. Look with me at verse number 13 of chapter 4. Verse number 13 of chapter 4. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And he went into her, and the Lord enabled her to conceive. And she gave birth to a son. Then the women said to Naomi, listen to what they say here. The women said to Naomi, not to Ruth, but Naomi, blessed is the Lord who has not left you without a redeemer today. And may his name become famous in Israel. May he also be to you a restorer of life and a sustainer of your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you and is better to you than 7 sons has given birth to him. Then Naomi took the child and laid him in her lap and became his nurse. The neighbor women gave him a name, saying, a son has been born to Naomi. So they named him Obed. Listen to this. He is the father of Jesse, the father of who? David. You go further. And who is in the line of David? The Lord Jesus Christ. Go back to the beginning of this. Who was Ruth? She's a Moabite woman. An enemy, if you will, of God's chosen people. And God used a Moabite woman to bring through that Moabite woman King David and the ultimate Redeemer and Restorer, Jesus Christ, the Son of the living God. God did a mighty work here, and who was in the middle of it? Who was being used by him to encourage Ruth, to build her up in the true faith? Who did Ruth hearken to in terms of building a spiritual life? It was Naomi, her spiritual mother. Naomi begins this book in tragic grief. In chapter 1, we read of her losing her husband and her 2 sons. Grief then turns to discouragement in chapter 1, believing the Lord has punished her and turned bitter and sour toward her. Oh, but discouragement turns to worship and praise for God's provision and protection in chapter 2. And then praise turns to blessing as Ruth marries Boaz and has a child. Through it all, Naomi never cursed God, never left her faith, believed God in spite of circumstances, and played the role of encourager and minister to Ruth. As a result of Naomi's faithfulness and Ruth's obedience, God worked in bringing his king through Ruth, and ultimately his only begotten son. Consider that for a moment. You may be sitting in this worship center today thinking, God can't work. God can't do anything through me. My time has passed. I've lost everything. Maybe Mother's Day is a time of pain for you because you have lost your husband and maybe your children. Maybe you feel like you are alienated from the world at large. Maybe you feel, as Naomi did, that God has just turned bitter towards you and soured on you and forsaken you. I'm here to tell you, God can and will still work through your life. God is not done with you. God continues to orchestrate your life just as He pleases to bring Him glory and honor. This morning, be a Naomi. Be a woman of faith. Be a spiritual mother to those around you. One final thought. Never ever fall prey to the belief that you are not wanted or needed. The Lord has a powerful plan for each of our mothers today. Each and every one of you. Be a Naomi. Let's pray. Lord, I thank you for your word. I thank you for our mothers today. And God, as we just quickly examined the book of...
I pray that this message was an encouragement to you. If you would like to know more about Jesus or would simply like someone to pray with you, please feel free to contact us through email, phone, or I would encourage you to engage in worship with us every Sunday morning at 10:15. We also have Sunday evening services at 6:30 and a Wednesday evening prayer time at 6:30. May the Lord richly bless you this week.